I've said it many times before, the Portland Trail Blazers are basically stuck in NBA purgatory. So what is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? Yeah, today's talk video is going to be about the Portland Trail Blazers. So if you recently saw my realistic rebuild with them last week over on the main channel, I went into great depth on what I think is wrong with this team, why they frustrate me so much, and what I think they could do in the future. Because you have looked at recent teams, most notably in the Eastern Conference with the Orlando Magic and the Detroit Pistons, how they stuck in around the 7th, around the 8th seed every year, got eliminated in round 1, got those 2 home playoff games to generate a little extra revenue, ended up with the 16th, 17th overall picks. You can look at like Sekou Doumbouya, you can look at maybe Luke Kennard, but he was still a lottery pick. You can look at Chimo Kiki. You can look at Cole Anthony. I mean, when they acquired Blake Griffin, they lost their first round pick, which ended up being Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But the Portland Trail Blazers are in a very similar situation. It's not much different over there. The only thing that's different is really they have a star player. Like CJ McCollum, you had Blake Griffin, you had Nikola Vucevic. You're kind of in the same category, the same tier when Blake was healthy in Detroit. And Blake even played like a top 10 guy in the 2019 season. But the thing that the Blazers have going for them is they have a top 10 player in the NBA. He hasn't been playing like it this year, but Damian Lillard. He's somebody that can make you say, all right, we don't need to blow it up. We could still win a championship, but how much longer do we need to wait for it? Last year, they lost in the playoffs to the Denver Nuggets, who didn't have Jamal Murray in 6 games. The year prior, in the bubble, they lost to the Lakers in round 1, I believe, in 5 games. The year prior to that, they lost to the Golden State Warriors in the conference finals, who didn't even have Kevin Durant. They got swept by Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson. And that's basically the teams that have been owning them throughout their kind of era of CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard as the 1 and 2 there, like the post-LaMarcus Aldridge era, you know. So not a lot has changed in the last 7 years. That's when like Marcus Aldridge ended up leaving. I believe it was the 2014, it might have been the 2015 offseason, around that time period. And what the Blazers did in the 2021 offseason, I hated. Now, I really hated it prior to the Larry Nance Jr. trade, and I like that to an extent. But you really have to see this team who just lost to the Denver Nuggets, who, like I mentioned, didn't have Jamal Murray in 6 games. Damian Lillard was phenomenal. The rest of the team, not as much. So you would think that they would try to make some maybe major moves to not just be running this team back and kind of being insane with it. But no, they said, we're going to solve our problems by bringing in Cody Zeller, Ben McLemore, and we are going to end up changing our head coach from Terry Stotts to a rookie head coach in Chauncey Billups that has had no head coaching experience already, which is fine. Rookie head coaches pan out well. You look at Steve Kerr, you look at Nick Nurse, you look at Eric Spoelstra post Pat Riley era. But you have to say that this isn't the Warriors. This isn't the Kawhi Raptors in the Eastern Conference that didn't have LeBron. This wasn't basically the Heat that had a big 3. Like, this is a Blazers team that is far from perfect. You lack a lot on the defensive end. You don't have a lot of guys you can rely on there. Like, you have Robert Covington, but it's not like Robert Covington's giving you any offense. He hasn't been much besides a little bit of a spot-up 3-point guy. Like, he'll hit about 1.5 threes a night, take about 4. I mean, that's what you're going to get out of him. But you're looking at CJ McCollum, who's off to a great start. You're looking at Damian Lillard, who's not off to a great start by any means. And it's not concerning, but through 8 games, he's shooting 35% from the field and 23% from 3. So it's a little alarming. I would say his assists are up, so his playmaking is getting a little bit better. But thank God, because if that wasn't, then he'd be literally a negative player at this point. So I think what you need to do if you're the Trailblazers is you have to make the tough decision. Are we going to build around Damian Lillard, or are we going to trade Damian Lillard? And if we are going to build around Damian Lillard, which it seems like both parties want to do, I don't think it can be with CJ McCollum as your number 2. And then Jusuf Nurkic is your number 3. And Norman Powell has been fine this year. He's been a good scorer. But is he going to be your number 3 to get you to their conference finals again? No, he's not going to. So I think if the opportunity still presents itself, which it doesn't seem like Philly wants to do, is a McCollum for Simmons trade. I think if McCollum keeps playing better, I would still think about it, because you get a little bit younger, you get better on the defensive side of the ball, you can maybe give more opportunity scoring-wise to Anthony Simons, Norman Powell, and even Jusuf Nurkic, and you try to go from there. Now, I like the Larry Nance Jr. pickup, but he hasn't really been much on the offensive side of the ball for them this year, but he gives you at least something on the defensive side. So you can maybe run like a Nurkic, Nance, Simmons, Powell, Lillard starting 5, and it's not terrible. I'm not a huge fan of Jusuf Nurkic. I think there's an opportunity where they can move on from him. I would do it. Like if there was a chance where you could move, I don't know, Nasir Little, who's been all right, Nurkic, maybe a first-round pick down the line, and the Pacers, they won't do this now because he's playing well to start off the year, but Miles Turner, I've always mentioned that before, how I think that would be a very nice team. So I think what you really need to do for the Blazers is you got to make that decision, like I said, trade Damian Lillard, build around Damian Lillard, and go from there. Now, I personally think, I don't really know. It's a tough like choice to make because you could build around Damian Lillard, and it's going to be tough because you're not going to get like Ben Simmons, you'd be lucky enough to get for McCollum. You'd have to move picks. Like, you're not getting a lot for Nurkic. You might get a little bit for Powell. I don't know, but you're not really getting a lot of assets blowing this team up like the Magic did, which they were able to move Fournier. They were able to move Vucevic. They were able to move Aaron Gordon, for at least something, and at least develop a young core, which they already had, of like Mo Bamba. That was not great, but at least he's there. They had Mo Bamba, they had Jonathan Isaac, they had Chimo Kiki, so like they had Markelle Fultz. So they were able to pick up an RJ Hampton in these trades, a Wendell Carter Jr., just another pick to get Franz Wagner, so they already had a little bit of a young core. And maybe you can look at like the Pistons side of things. They had 3 first-round picks in 2020, coming off what they were in purgatory after moving on from Blake Griffin and buying him out. But yeah, like they added a Sadiq Bey, they added a Killian Hayes, they added a Isaiah Stewart, which isn't out of the realm for the Blazers to do if they move Damian Lillard. Now, I think you could maybe snag 2 first-round picks from McCollum, and then like a complete salary filler, which you would have to find a team that would be willing to do that. So that's a very tough decision if you want to maybe build up some draft capital and keep Damian Lillard. But if you move Damian Lillard, yeah, you can get a top premier guy in this league. I don't know which young asset you would want. You can probably get Brandon Ingram, Kyra Lewis, Naw, and a bunch of picks. If you wanted to do that, you could probably get Ben Simmons, Maxey Thybulle, and a couple picks. I'm trying to think some other team that could be involved. I don't think the Knicks would necessarily give them a great package because I think the Knicks would be too stubborn to give up RJ Barrett at this rate. So I think it comes down to, can you find the right Damian Lillard trade? Would you want Wiggins, Kuminga, Wiseman, and Moody? Maybe, I don't know. So it really comes down to that. And what you want going forward. So I think like right now you have 2 young guys in Little and Anthony Simons that you should hopefully build around. Little being 21, Simons being 22. That's really your only young assets on this team. Like you do have Greg Brown and CJ Ellaby, but they're not really playing at all for them this year. So it's really just learning how to draft. I mean, they don't have their first round pick this year if they make the playoffs. They haven't really hit many of their draft picks, and obviously they traded them away also. So yeah, it really comes down to that big executive decision. Are we moving Damian Lillard or are we not? You got to make up your mind, and it looks like they're going towards the latter there, and they're not going to move them. So hey, stop rolling out the same team every year. It's pissing me off, and I'm sure it's frustrating and infuriating to Trailblazers fans who want to see this team succeed and want to see Damian Lillard bring a championship to Portland. And I'm sorry, but CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard isn't going to work. It would have worked in 2019 when you made it to the conference finals, but you got swept by the Warriors, and it's not like you went up against the KD-led Warriors. You got swept. You blew a couple leads in there. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, I don't think changing Terry Stotts or Chauncey Billups is going to change things, and maybe it will. Maybe like a Chauncey Billups-led team would have been able to beat the Nuggets in last year's playoffs because a lot of the games were close. But I don't know. It's kind of pissing me off a little bit, and I just wanted to express my frustrations because I want to see the city succeed. I like to see small markets succeed. And it's just like, you can be fine being the 5, 6, 7 seed every year, losing in round 1, maybe winning a round 1 series, but I just don't see this team beating the Lakers, the Warriors, the Jazz, the Suns, the Nuggets, the Mavericks, really, when it comes down to it. It's tough, man. And you can say about they're 3-5 with a positive net rating, and Damian Lillard is playing the worst basketball of his career. Most definitely. I predicted the Blazers to make the playoffs. I think they still will. But what are you going to get out of that? Another 2-3 home playoff games. You get that revenue, and then rinse and repeat each year. You're going to end up not with your first round pick this year because it's lottery protected. So that'll go to Chicago after you make the playoffs. And then what? You make the playoffs next year. You get the 19th overall pick. You take a random, you take a guy that might be a Sadiq Bey, a John Collins, an OG Anunoby. It could be a good value pick. But he might end up being a Georges Papagiannis. He might end up being a Nolan Smith or a Tony Roden. Or I'm just trying to think of like a Nasir Little. I don't know. Just like, I mean, Little's been fine for actually the value he was taking up. But just like maybe late first round picks like a Henry Ellison. I don't know. Like it just could end up being one of those. So let me know what you guys think about the Portland Trail Blazers down below. Do you think I'm being too harsh on them, or do you think I'm being kind of honest and realistic with them? I try to give my objective opinions here, and that's what it is. But yeah, I would like to see the Blazers succeed, and them trotting out the same roster each year or the same core with Nurkic, McCollum, Lillard. It's not going to get them much different because they had a young guy in Garrett Trent and they moved on from him. But Powell's been fine. Let me know what you guys think down below. Drop a like if you guys have been enjoying the videos. I love you guys. Okay, catch you on the next one. Peace.